The One Talk is a program for the book fair as an international program which will be broadcasting all around the world, all right? And it will cover topics where the top people or the people in that segment of the authorities come together to share their experiences and best practice with the audience and the followers actually. Actually, every one of the speakers have their keen followers that will follow them everywhere they go and everywhere they speak. So the topics will range from book selling, publishing, World Book Capital, employability, and today we're going to talk about libraries and the future of libraries. Without further ado, we'll start the program with our first speaker. We will welcome Dr. Haja Rashida to do her presentation on libraries of the future. Enjoy.
Hello and good afternoon. I am Rashida, calling all the way from Kuching. First of all, congratulations on the organizer for organizing this One Talk on the Library of the Future. Thank you for inviting me as one of your panel. I am very sorry that I'm not able to be there in person, but with technology, we are able, or I'm able to kind of share with you my thoughts on what are the libraries of the future. Well, we can't have the libraries of the future if our people not reading. This morning I was reading a report to say that 13% of the children in Malaysia are of education poverty. Education poverty meaning to say a child is not able to read a perfect sentence by the age of 10. So the libraries have to have a major role in ensuring that the literacy level of our people are at par so that we do have and will continue to have libraries in the future. Definitely libraries in the future will be libraries equipped with technology, and with that technology the libraries need not necessarily just be physically in all the places, enough or maybe sufficient enough to have one hub center and link to the other service centers. And especially if we talk about a state as big as Sarawak, for example, to have physical infrastructure on libraries could be overwhelming. But we use what I call the information superhighway to connect the people so that they also have access to information and knowledge. The libraries of the future would also be the referral center or the hub for the containment or for the preservation of a certain country's heritage. And we're talking about intellectual heritage over here. The libraries of the future should now work on collecting, documenting, massaging, managing our heritage information. What is current now will be considered as heritage in the future. So we have to prepare for our libraries in the future now by collecting what is necessary so that our cultural heritage will continue to be preserved. The libraries of the future should be a people-centric center, be it in the sense of the services they offer, be it in on the space that they offer to the people. What the pandemic taught us is the library is very critical in being a player, an important active player in informing the people of the current situations. For example, the people have to be informed, and the people have got to know that there is a center which is people friendly, which is their place. And also, to be a library of the future, the library now, or the library community, especially those community practice of librarians, have to be ensuring that they continue to be relevant 10, 15 more years to come. Alexandria Library is a case. It has been developed ages ago and it is still relevant as it is today. But they do not just stay on what they were before. They continue to be evolved through innovations, through the use of new technology. And librarians have to think that they have to be on their toes in updating themselves with what is being needed what is being required by their stakeholders, the users, the men on the street, the students, the housewives, the elderly, for example. And also, not just to those people who seek services from you. In that sense, you also have to be players with the decision makers. If the world is going on or talking about climate change now, SDG 2030, for example, what are the librarians talking about? What are the librarians doing about all those things? We cannot be just a person, or a librarian cannot just be the person who just watch and let things just go by and just disappear in front of us. We have to be active players. We have to be the one who are the trendsetter for the community. Our community might not be able to get the update version of things or the latest information, for example. It is us, and the librarian of now and the future will depend on the librarians now. So what we're talking about library of the future, it is now for us to design libraries of the future. Thank you, Mr. Kit Tong, for inviting me. Thank you to all the other panel members as well. I'm sure you have a lot more as well to share with the rest of our audience. And let's think together and let's move together to prepare and present and also design what the future of libraries and libraries of the future for all of us. Thank you so much, and goodbye, and God bless.
Thank you, Dr. Rashida, for sharing a very good insight with us about the Library of the Future. And now I would like to call upon our moderator, Dr. Noor Ezan, to come to the stage and introduce her panel of speakers with us. Dr. Noor Ezan has been in the library field for very long, and she has been teaching and sharing and representing Malaysia in many, many global library events. We are so proud to have her agreeing to be our moderator today. So Dr. Noor Ezan, please, we welcome you.
Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera semua, and good afternoon. Thank you, Keith. So we meet again here for today's session of the One Talk at PBA KL. And today our session, as Keith says, is all about libraries and librarians. So we had before us Datuk Dr. Rashidah Bolhassan. She was the former CEO of Pustaka Sarawak, or the Sarawak State Library, for 13 years. And she is currently the immediate past president of Persatuan Pustakawan Malaysia, or PPM. And she is now the permanent secretary for the Ministry of Welfare, Community Wellbeing, Women, Family and Childhood Development for the state of Sarawak. So our next speaker, I would like to call upon Dr. Diljit. Dr. Diljit is a familiar face amongst librarians in Malaysia. He retired from the Department of Library and Information Science, University of Malaya, Kuala Lumpur, where he served for 19 years. And now he serves on several editorial board and committees, and he sits as chair of a number of committees, and also was on IFLA for a couple of years. So our next speaker, I would like to call, or our next panel member, I would like to call Puan Mazmin Mat Ahir. Okay, Puan Mazmin is from University Malaysia Perlis, or UNIMAP, and she has been there for a number of years as well. So I'm trying to find her bio. I do not know where. I had it with me. Now it seems to have disappeared. Anyway, she is the chief librarian of Tuanku Said Izzuddin Putra Library, University Malaysia Perlis, or UNIMAP, since 2014. And she has produced numerous books and monographic materials for UNIMAP. and she is actively involved in the establishment committee of the Higher Education Electronic Resources Consortium or CONCEPT. So that is Puan Mazmin. She flew all the way from Perlis this morning to be with us today. Our last panel member, and definitely the youngest amongst us here, is Dr. Maya Sari Abdul Majid. Dr. Maya? Dr. Maya is an up-and-coming librarian amongst us now, and I guess she's the youngest amongst all of us here. We pale against her, I think, age-wise. Anyway, she is a senior librarian at Nobel International School in Malaysia, and she's a member of the International Federation of Library and Association, IFLA. She is in the school library section, and recently she won the nomination and election as a council member of Persatuan Pustakawan Malaysia. And Dr. Maya comes here with vast working experience in public school libraries, international school libraries, and academic libraries. So let us give a hand to our panel of speakers, Dr. Datuk Rashida, Dr. Diljit, Puan Mazmin, and also Dr. Maya. So my first question, I'm going to, I won't ask you questions yet. I would just like for you to talk about what, in your opinion, are libraries of the future like? So I'm going to do a naughty one here. I'm going to get the youngest to speak, yeah? So Dr. Maya?
Okay. Hi, Assalamualaikum, and good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so Dr. Izan asking me, can you please repeat the question again, Dr. Izan?
Libraries of the future. In your opinion, what would libraries of the future be like? Not specifically just school libraries, overall, the library situation, maybe within Malaysia, and a bigger view of what libraries of the future will be like worldwide.
Okay. So, for me, it's my opinion. From my opinion, actually, the school and the librarians and libraries are still relevant right now. Okay. Most of my friends in another country, the school librarian is important. Okay, so they will hire the qualified and professional school librarian. Why? Because the school librarian that have the certification, the certified profession, they know what's the best for our students. Okay, and then nowadays it comes together with the technology as well. So that is my opinion about the future of the libraries, Dr. Izan.
So what Dr. Maya is saying, that in her opinion, she feels that in the future, libraries will still be relevant, and to be able to be a school librarian or a librarian in a school, you need the qualification and the credentials to do so. So I guess that would be similar with other libraries as well. So Puan Mazmin, libraries of the future, what do you envisage? What do you think? How do you feel?
Thank you, Dr. Izan. Thank you, Keith, for inviting us, as panel members today. I think the libraries of the future is going to be different in what we are seeing now for the time being. However, as we know that library is a living organism, so it's constantly changing in many ways, in its outlook, the physical design, even the digital experience, and so on. To my opinion, the future libraries will be still a community hub. It will serve its community, and it will actually design to fulfill beyond the community expectation. And in the academic library, I thought, in the future, we will see more coffee shops in the libraries, more souvenir shop, maybe boutique. Dr. Izan bought a tudung just now. Maybe tudung boutique in the library. Maybe we have people from the community doing activities in the library, producing something for the economic growth and so on. So I thought that will be the library of the future. It will be a blend of community engagement plus the librarians, the users, the community in it. That's my opinion, Dr. Izan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Puan Mazmin. So what Puan Mazmin is saying is that the libraries of the future will in itself be a community hub where the community can come together and do whatever they want to do within the library itself. So that is now happening at a slower rate in some public libraries, but I think we're getting there. So the last one would be Dr. Diljit. What are your views on the library of the future?
Thank you. Thank you for that question, Dr. Edzan. And I'd like to thank the organizing committee for inviting me here. Good afternoon, Salam Sejahtera, and greetings to everyone in there. What will be the library of the future is very difficult to say because there are many, many changes that are taking place. And we don't know what will be the library of the future. But I am an optimist. I believe that the library will continue to exist, but it may not be in a form that we are used to it today. Today, when we go into a library, we see a nice building, we see collections of books, we see librarians helping users with their services, and many other features in there. What will be the library of the future? I think, as Dato' Rashida pointed out towards the end in her speech, will depend much on what is the world like tomorrow, and also how we as librarians, we as parents, we as community members help to shape the library. We realize that there are many changes that are taking place, and there are some institutions that have changed significantly. Those of you who are old enough may still remember that Jabatan Telecom at one time had what they call a telegraph office. You would go there, dictate what you wanted to say, and a telegram would be sent to the person on the receiving side. Usually it would be a very short message, one sentence or so. The telegraph office has disappeared. There is no more telegraph being sent now. Even if you look at the post office today, post office was a time where you would go there and buy stamps, post your letters, and perhaps send some money order or postal order in there. Today, post office is doing many, many different things. But this is something that we have to be prepared for. The bank used to be a place where you would go and take your money. Then, at the most, pay some bills of it in there. Today, you can walk into many of the supermarkets and withdraw money from an ATM machine. The banks are becoming less and less of giving out money. They are now giving many different kind of services. So what will be the library of tomorrow? What will be the library of the future? May be very different from what the library of today is. And this is something that we have to be prepared. And to me, I'm an optimist. I believe that the library will continue to exist, but it will depend on some of the actions that we take now to make sure that the library remains relevant to the people, to the users, to the community who is outside there. So I don't have a single answer in terms of what the library of the future will be like, but I believe it will be different. How it will be different is for us to decide based on what the society needs. That's my views.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Diljit, which means that all three of the panel members agree that the libraries will still be there. The libraries are still relevant in whatever form it is, but it will change. Like Puan Mazmin says, the library is a living organism, so the library will change according to the needs and the wants of the community. So I'm assuming that at some point in time, the community will decide how the library will cater or how the library will change according to their needs and their wants. So, Puan Mazmin, my question to you, you were talking just now generally about libraries. Okay, now specifically because you are coming from an academic library, you are the chief librarian for UNIMAP or University Malaysia Perlis for a number of years. So specifically thinking about academic libraries, how do you predict the role of academic libraries in the future? Will academic libraries be as it is today? or with the current technology and the pandemic that we went through recently, would academic libraries' roles change significantly in the future, or will it remain status quo with changes here and there? How do you see academic libraries playing a role in the student or the university community in the future?
Thank you, Dr. Izan. It's a very long question, actually. I'll try to my best to answer the question. Looking at the current scenario, I believe that the role of libraries and librarians are getting very critical, is even very crucial in the future. The reason why I said so is because currently we are having sea of information available on the net. And I think in the future, the libraries that we have in Malaysia will need to actually do more, not only to capture, not only to preserve the local contents that we are producing every minute in the university. We are having conversation that not being recorded, but producing impactful synergy in the university, for example. We're having conversation, informal conversation, and later on becoming a strategy for future higher education, for example. And we're having success stories from students. They are doing well in many segments in the universities. So this is the role of the libraries and the librarians today, to capture this information and even to curate information in order to put it available for the global community, for the benefit of the global community. The way I look at things now is we are going to have the libraries, we're going to produce more repositories, but not on try and error basis, but a more attractive, a more sustainable approach, so that the libraries in Malaysia later on in the future will be contributing towards a global libraries providing access to global information. That is how I look at things. And I think we need to critically think about this in order for us to get prepared on doing things that will later the global community will appreciate us on what we are doing, because we enrich the knowledge of the global community. That is my question, Dr. Izan. My answer, Dr. Izan. Thank you.
If we listen to what Puan Mazmin said, a lot of words that are coming out from her conversation is global, which means that academic libraries can no longer think local. We have to think beyond our borders, and we have to look at the global scenario. So, Dr. Dilip, I'm going to pose the next question to you in response to what Mazmin said, because you yourself has been an academician for a very long time, and I know you are a frequent user of the UM library then. So does whatever Mazmin says resonates with what you are thinking now about the role of academic libraries in the future? Are they just going to be confined within the academic community, or are they going to look way beyond?
Thank you. I fully agree with what Puan Mazmin said. I think we have to think global. There's a saying, think global, act local. You know, that you have to think in terms of what is happening in the world outside, what are the changes that are taking place, and how is it affecting us locally. Because looking at it from the academic library perspective, one, the resources are not just local. The materials that we use in the academic library come from many different parts of the world. And these days, and even in Malaysia, the users are no longer just local. Most of the universities, in fact, I would say almost all the universities are having international students. So a student may be coming from Africa, a student may be coming from South America, or maybe coming just from the neighboring country, Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia. But they have their own information needs. They also have their own information expertise, information knowledge that they are able to share, even though they may not have it themselves, but they're able to point you to it and say, you can get this in this place, you can get this in that place and there. So yes, we have to think global in terms of what we want to do. And in Malaysia, we haven't quite come to the stage yet. But at some point, we may also be employing librarians who are coming from other countries to provide that input in there. I know there is a move within the ASEAN countries that librarians in one country should be able to work in another. So tomorrow you may have an Indonesian librarian working in a Malaysian university, a Malaysian librarian working in a Filipino university, somebody from Myanmar who is coming and working here. Yes, there are issues and challenges to be overcome, but that is a goal that we are working towards. So we are moving towards a global environment, global society, and certainly it affects the library too. It's not just in economics, it's not just in politics, it's not just because there's a war taking place in Ukraine that we are affected by it, but even in the library, the resources, the services, the human resources, all need to be thinking global.
Okay. So again, we see the emergence of the word global, which means that librarians in Malaysia need to move. We need to move out of our comfort zone and to face the global workplace. Because like Dr. Didi says, within ASEAN, there is now a working committee to look into the possibility of librarians across ASEAN to work in each other's country. But I guess, Dr. Maya, this has been happening in international school. Say, because I know in some international schools, you have got librarians from overseas who are working as libraries, yeah? As librarians in the international schools, especially the private ones. So, in your opinion, what will become of school libraries in the future? Will they remain as it is, or will you expect changes? I know for a fact that school libraries, especially the private ones, are quite different from the public school libraries. It's a different scenario, yeah? Because the public school libraries, they work under different set of programs and instruction, whereas the private school libraries, they are quite free to do as and what they want, and they normally have an international format or program that they follow. So in your opinion, what would be the role or the vision of school libraries in the future? Would they be as it is right now, or do you think that it would change so drastically that it's not what it is today?
Thank you, Dr. Izan, for your question. Okay, when you ask me about the vision of the future library, especially for the school libraries, okay, first let me explain what is the differences between public school libraries and international school libraries, okay? First of all, in the public school library, of course, the teacher itself is the one who handle and manage the school libraries. However, in the private and international school, we are the professional and certified school librarians, okay? So I feel that, and I believe most of my friends, the school librarians, we feel that the school libraries are essential to students learning in the 21st century. Okay? The library, the school library should be the heart of every school because it belongs not only to the students, it also belongs to staff, teachers, and also some cases in my previous school, parents also can come to our school library. Okay? School library is a place for students to learn and develop within our academic development and beyond of that. A library also, a school library also is a place where students can learn how to find information effectively and efficiently with physical and also online. Why? Because nowadays all the information actually not only contained in the physical book. Okay, we have a lot of information online. So this is one of our role as a school librarian, which is we assist students how to find the information online. So that's why in our school library, we have a media and information literacy session. So because we assist students, we teach students from the school how to find the correct information. I believe that when you say, my daughter can find information on the internet. Okay, I agree with you, but did they find the correct information? How they filter the information? Okay, So this is one of our role as well in the International School Library. Our most important task as the school librarians to assist students in developing a love of independent reading. So as you heard what Dr. Rashida taught just now, the literacy level in our country is still at the low. Okay, so that's why I believe that as a school librarians, we should assist students on how to assist them to do the independent reading. Okay, we just give them the freedom, what they want to read. But of course, as a school librarian, we should assist them. We can ask them, what type of genre of book that you like to read, okay? For example, in my school, we divide the fiction book based on genre. Same like when you go to a bookshop. Okay, we have genre of mystery, fairy tale, so easy for them to go for it. I know that, and also we, in our school library also, we have our proper library management system. We assist them, we teach them how to find book. Even though from the elementary, they already they start to adapt. Because in our international school, we not only serve our local student, we have international student as well, which is their culture and our culture is quite different, whereby they already have the exposure to the school library. They already know how to use the school library. But in our cases, that's why we need to be a par like them or beyond from them. So that is my answer. What is my vision for the future of the library?
Sorry, Dr. DJ, I need to bring you back in here because why I'm bringing him back in here because Dr. DJ is currently the immediate past president of the International Association of School Librarianship. So your response to what Dr. Maya is saying, would you like to add on or expand further? Because there is a difference in the way our public school libraries are run when compared to the international school libraries. There's a vast difference, yeah? One has got the Guru Perpustakaan and Media, GPM, and the other one has got Pustakawan ataupun librarian. So the picture is different. So any comment on that, Dr. DJ? Would their roles be different for the future?
It's difficult to say whether their roles will be different in the future or not. But in relation to the point earlier, yes, there are big differences between the public schools in Malaysia and the private and international schools in Malaysia. As Dr. Mayasari pointed out, generally the private and international schools, the library is managed by a qualified librarian, the person who has some library and information qualification or professional qualification. But in the Malaysian public schools, and we have to realize that there are almost 10,000 or slightly more than 10,000 public schools in Malaysia, from the very large ones with 3,000 students to the very small ones with less than 50 students in there. So it's kind of difficult, it's challenging for the government to provide those kind of services in there. So yes, the public schools are managed by somebody who is what we call in Bahasa Malaysia, Guru Perpustakaan dan Media, or media teacher and media and library teacher, because that person has a teaching qualification and some library qualification. It need not be a professional library qualification, but he or she has had some exposure to how to manage a library in there. Because the public schools are basically guided by the Ministry of Education. And the Ministry of Education, at least until now, their policy has been that in order to manage the library, you must have a teaching qualification also. So the person who is managing the library must be a qualified teacher. And of course, you can have a library qualification of it in there, which many of them do. So this is one of the major differences in there, that the insistence that he or she be a qualified teacher. Because they are thinking about it, and having worked in the ministry, although it was many, many years ago, their feeling is that anybody who is working in the school, needs to be able to understand the educational aspect of it, the teaching, the pedagogy, the sociology of it in there, which professional librarians may or may not have that. It's not a required in there. Because you find that in the school, even the counselor has got some educational qualification. Even the PE teacher is a qualified teacher. We do not have somebody who's a sportsman coming and teaching PE in the school. So this has been the policy of the Ministry of Education for many, many years. And this is one of the major differences in there. Of course, the resources that they have in the public schools are also different. The public schools do not have access to so much of financial resources. And it's obvious because they are dependent on government funds, and which are limited. Whereas in the private schools, in the international schools, they get their funds from the school fees and other sources of income. Now, if we consider the fees that are being paid by the students in the private schools and international schools, it is way high compared to what they pay in the public schools. So this is again a difference in there, that the financial resources that are available to the private and international schools are different from in there. There are, of course, many other differences in too, but I think both have a role to play. The library in the private and international schools has an important role to play. The library in the government school also has an important role to play.
Thank you, Dr. Digit, for sharing your views on that point, because I think there's a lot of debate going on between, or rather about, school libraries in public schools and school libraries in private international schools. Okay, just to share with the audience here, sometime this year, Press Reader published an e-book titled "What Industry Leaders Predict About the Future of Libraries." And they interviewed 6 experts who shared their insights on libraries of the future, and one of them was Keith here. And after they have come out with a number of themes, they did a survey to make sure that whatever the 6 experts are saying is in line with the thinking of library professionals. So they surveyed about 434 library professionals, and they came out with 6 themes. Yeah, you can read the book. It's available online. It's What Industry Leaders Predict About the Future of Libraries. Okay, I'm drawing your attention to this one because one of the theme is holistic sustainable strategies. Libraries will emerge as leaders in holistic sustainability. And I want to tie this question in with Puan Mazmin. Not a difficult question, Puan Mazmin, quite simple. It's like a test. If library institutions remain sustainable in the future, okay, meaning that all of us are sustainable, that's what we claim to be, what are the challenges libraries and librarians face? I think the focus will be more on librarians because the libraries will change. Like you guys opinionated just now that libraries will change in the future. Now, what about the librarians? What are the challenges that the librarians will face given the situation that libraries will remain sustainable in the future? Macam soalan exam kan?
Yeah, I thought so. I was also about to say that, yeah. And I thought it's quite difficult, Dr. Izan. I think we talk about library as a changing institution. It keep changing in many ways. But the questions are, who's doing the changes? The changes are being implemented by the librarians. I must say that the library leaders plays important roles to lead the changes and to make decisions on the changes. If I may say that the challenge, the biggest challenge that we are facing now is to have not only a library leader, a leader that can see the future, can actually look ahead and connecting the dots. What will be the future like? For example, after the pandemic, we've been looking at reimagining education rather than last time we can predict what's the education in the future look like. But now, after the pandemic, we are talking about reimagining education. I thought it's the similar things to do with libraries. Now we have to reimagining libraries. And Dr. Izan, the critical part is in order for the librarians to understand how and means and ways to reimagining libraries, there are at least 3 thought-provoking questions that we have to ask. Whether we actually having a role, even though the library is going to be sustainable, but what kind of roles that are playing today? To my understanding, in my opinion, the biggest challenge is to have a well-trained library leaders that having what we call a thought like a business leaders. They have to have collaboration mindset. And we mentioned about, just now Dr. Digit mentioned about collaboration among libraries, local and international. But I foresee in the future with doing more with less. Libraries are responsible, the library leaders are responsible to find opportunities with industries, for example, with the research institution, for example. I think that will be the biggest challenge, because looking at the thought that we were going to be sustainable is going to make us feel stagnant, think stagnant. We should think like an entrepreneur, finding opportunities and making the libraries as a strong community hub for everyone. No one should be left behind for the libraries in the future. That will be my answer, Dr. Izan. Thank you.
Thank you.
So may I add a little bit more to what Puan Masmin has shared? Actually, moving forward, right, we are talking about information professionals. It's a serious business, being a librarian. It's just not like an alternative job. People study first degree, master, PhD, and further research. There's so many things to do. Generally, in many of the private schools or international schools where I serve a lot, is that librarian will say, we are information professionals. You want normal information, you go to Google. You want the right information because you don't have time. You go straight to the exact information. We call it tepat dan jitu, at the correct time and stuff like that. The librarian will give you the pedoman or give you the right direction and point you to which database, which content, and how to go about searching it. Because every day there's information overload. And there's a lot of false news outside there. You don't know who to believe. But you can trust your librarian. He or she will take you to the right path. We may not know everything as a librarian, but we know how to point you to the right direction.
Thank you, Mr. Keys, for that. I think the librarians are smiling now. Okay, so this ties in with one of the theme of the book, theme number 6, workforce development. The entire experts felt that libraries must continue to make important investments in their own workforce. So which means that librarians have to move out of their comfort zone into the world and face it head on. We can no longer work in silos. We need to collaborate, and then we need to further enhance, upskill, upgrade, or whatever that we need to do to make sure that we are compatible with what is happening outside. So now that brings me to the question to Dr. Diljit. Yeah? In your opinion, what needs to be done to ensure the viability and success of libraries in the future? So we have been talking about librarians, we have been talking about academic libraries, we have been talking about school libraries, and Dr. Shida just now talked about public libraries, about preserving heritage, working with the community. So in your opinion, what needs to be done to ensure the viability and success of libraries in the future? Or else, if we don't see a future for the library might just disappear. A lot of people predicted that in the 1980s, when I was studying in library science, a lot of authors were predicting, like J.W. Lancaster predicted the demise of libraries. And I think in 1990, there were terms like libraries without walls, meaning that there need not be a physical building. Libraries can operate anywhere. So Dr. Digit, I throw the question to you. What needs to be done to ensure the viability and success of libraries in the future?
I think what you mentioned just now, that there have been predictions time and again that the library will disappear. Now, whether it disappears or not is something difficult for us to say, but as I said at the beginning, I'm an optimist. I believe that the library will continue to exist in the future. I think in order for it to be successful, when existing is one thing, being successful is slightly different. I think it's important that we need to consider what are the community needs in there. What is it that the community is wanting? We've heard many times that if you want the right information, you go to the librarian. Google will provide you with 1,000 answers, but it may not be the right one that's in there. The librarian will be able to provide you with the answers. That is in relation to specific information that has been published, that has been made available online or physically. There are many forms of information that people want that may not be available in the library or even through a librarian. So I think this is something that it's important that librarians be in touch with what is going on in the world outside. Librarians, as Dr. Itzan says, no longer exist in silos within the building of the library, but they are involved with what is going on in the world outside, what are the changes that are taking place, changes not just in terms of the technology, but changes also in terms of social, changes in terms of economic, changes in terms of political, changes in terms of demographics in there. We don't have a representative here from the public library, but if you are thinking in terms of who does a public library serve, you need to understand that in Malaysia, we have a wide spectrum of people in here, some of whom are not using the library because the resources are not there, because the facilities are not there for them. I'm thinking of the construction worker from Indonesia. Do they use the library? I'm thinking of the petrol pump attendant from Bangladesh. Do they use the library? Yet they are also contributing to Malaysia. And there are many others who are in here. The wife of the expatriate who is working in some company. Do they use the library? Well, this is something that we need to consider. I think what is important in ensuring the success and viability and the library to be thriving is that librarians need to be aware of what's going on, what are the needs in there, and then to be able to take appropriate action. And two concepts that come to my mind in terms of how do we plan for the future. One is the concept of citizen science, where public participation and collaboration is important to increase our knowledge. Normally when we do research, we do the thing, we collect data, we present the data in there. The people in the respondents are ordinary people who have little say in the design and the information that we are collecting. Provide you with answers, yes, but they were not involved in the design of what information is being collected. So the citizen science part of it is, I think, something that libraries and librarians need to incorporate into their workflow in there. The other part of it is what we call design thinking, where we need to understand the user's needs. What is it that the users need? We are very clear about users in the academic libraries. They're coming there to help support their studies. They're coming there to help, they need help in their research. They need help with their teaching and so on. But what is the information that is needed by the vast public library users? What is the information that is needed by the National Library users, by the special library users? I mean, if you have a library, for example, in an institution like the Institute of Medical Research or in PORIM or in some other institution, what kind of information are these people needing? I think this is where we need to be looking into what are the information needs of the users, and then to be able to design our facilities, services accordingly. Forgive me for saying that, but I come from an academic background where research is an important part. If you want to get answers to it of what you want to do well, you need to have data, you need to have an understanding of what is it that the consumer wants. I think that is something that the libraries need to be doing more of it. Call it marketing, call it research, call it whatever other term that you wish to use. The libraries need to understand their target groups, then design, provide the services accordingly. That's my view of it in there.
Okay, what I'm hearing from what Dr. DJ is saying is that we librarians and libraries now need to understand user needs. I think in the past, I'm also guilty of this while I was working. We tend to do things according to how we want to do it without addressing are these things that we are doing are things that the users really need. And at the end of the day, a certain project will fail because we are not getting the response from the users because this is what the user doesn't want. So it's kalau orang Melayu kata sedap sendiri, kita buat benda ikut shock sendiri, kita rasa macam okay, kita buat. Tapi it's not okay with the users. So I understand where you are coming from, Dr. Legit. Now, another one of the 6 themes that came in the study or in the book is digital tools and training. And this one I have to ask Dr. Maya. Because Dr. Maya is an active participant of social media. I think she has got her own TikTok channel, you call it, yeah, Dr. Maya? I do follow your TikTok channel. I do follow your IG. I do follow your Reels. Okay. $1,000,000 question. How relevant are technology and social media for school librarians? Not only school librarians, for librarians as a whole. Does Puan Mazmin needs a TikTok channel for her as a librarian, chief librarian of UNIMAP, or does she need a TikTok channel for UNIMAP library itself? Because I know overseas you have librarians who have their own TikTok channel where they actually showcase things about their libraries. Yeah, they don't have a library TikTok channel, but they have their own personal librarian TikTok where they actually do a lot of things. And these things are catchy. The young ones like this. Yeah, maybe my mother pun tak, kalau she's around, she will be wondering what are all these people doing, jumping up and down, kan? People don't understand why people jumping up and down. But I think the new generation understands. They want to TikTok, and through TikTok they learn a lot actually. So Dr. Maya, you are the expert in this field. So I hand it to you. How strong is social media helping out with the librarians especially?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Izan, and thank you for following me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Yeah, actually, I am particularly thrilled about physical book. Okay, because I enjoy the tactile quality of actual object. You know, when you read the physical book, you can smell the book, right? But I'm aware on how technology has grown in our daily life, and libraries also no different. Okay, so computers, catalog system, database, software are essential nowadays in school libraries. And I'm comfortable with that. Okay, if our students ask us how to do this question, how to answer this question, how to search for the information, we as a school librarian, we need to equip ourselves with this technology. Okay, let me ask audience, do you have Facebook? Who have Facebook? Do you have TikTok? Do you have Twitter? Okay. Why we need this social media? Of course, to apart from the supplement to the marketing effort, it also can build the networking. Do you know that I meet all these experts in my field through Facebook? I never meet them in person. Okay? Why? Because if I want to ask something, I just private message Dr. Izan. Hi, my name is Maya. I'm a school librarian, blah, blah. Hi, Dr. DJ, can I ask you a question? Okay? So we have to approach our senior and ask them. So that is the purpose of social media. Okay, I give another example. In my school, we have our library ambassador. Okay, not student librarians. Okay, because I don't want them to confuse what is librarians. So that's why we call a library ambassador. So when I ask my library ambassador, can you please do a book review? And then their face like, book review? I have to read book. Okay, so when I ask them, can you please do a book talk? Book talk like a TikTok teacher? Yes, like a TikTok. So they just do a short book review within 30 seconds. They just do like, not like a dancing one, okay? Of course, the appropriate one. So we use that hashtag, we call book talk. If you go to Instagram, when you use the hashtag book talk, you can see a lot of school librarians and librarians, they use this hashtag to recommend the book. Okay? Then what else? Okay, and for another technology, just now you said about technology, right? Okay, in our school, we have subscribed to digital resources, which is to help students to, of course, to build their interest to read an e-book. Okay, apart from that, when we want to do a research, okay, do you know that when we use encyclopedia, actually it will help students to get the short and full information. For example, Britannica, online Britannica. Okay, but if your children did not come to the school library, I'm sure they didn't know what the use of encyclopedia. Okay, so that's why I think the usage, the technology and social media is important nowadays in our field, Dr. Izan.
So what I'm getting from Dr. Maya is we need to use social media in order to promote and market our services, in order to promote and market ourselves, but use it appropriately. Yeah, use it. You don't have to be jumping up and down all the time. There are things that you can do in a very nice fashion that people will enjoy. Apart from enjoying, they will also learn new things. Yeah, because you cannot escape. In my IG or in my Facebook, all these TikTok and Reels keep appearing on my timeline. And somehow or other, sometimes I click and I say, oh, this is interesting. It's something that I do not know. So I'm learning something new. Okay, this is going to be our last round before I hand over the entire program back to Keith. Final say, a final word, a final point from our panel members. Probably I start with Dr. Diljit again. Your last thoughts on the libraries of the future.
My closing thoughts in terms of the libraries of the future. I feel that the libraries have a bright future, provided we take the necessary steps right now. I think it's also important that libraries play a proactive role. Many of you may be aware, we just had the Library Day, and the theme for it was that no one left behind. Libraries as agents of change. So libraries need to be involved with society, making sure that nobody is being left behind, whether it is a young school child or a 85-year-old senior citizen. No one should be left behind, and the library has an important role to play. I believe the future of libraries is bright, provided we take the right steps towards it now.
Azmin?
I think my thought is similar to Dr. Diljit. I think libraries is still going to be a reflection of nation civilization. However, the development of libraries across the globe may be not in the same phase, because there are still nations using printed books because they don't have the technology to opt for e-books. So I believe libraries of the future will have these diverse varieties of technologies, varieties of users, especially the me generation that we are facing now. So my understanding is we're going to celebrate more of libraries in the future, and all the best to everyone in the library sectors. And we need community feedback for us to grow better. Thank you.
Dr. Maya, the last words?
Okay, in my opinion, to make a library still, school libraries still relevant, you must equip your school library with various information resources in various format. You must have certified school librarians. You must equip your school library with the latest technology. You must aware what the user needs with the latest social media whatsoever. And you must have various learning spaces so that you can have the environment to invite students to come to the libraries. Okay, so I think when we have this kind of 4 or 5 factors, I believe that more students will come to the school libraries and they will have enjoy the reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Diljit. Thank you, Dr. Maya. Thank you, Puan Mazmin. And thank you, Keith, for having us. Just something I'd like to share with you, yeah? Those who have not read the book, What Industry Leaders Predict About the Future of Libraries, please read. Because the 6 experts are coming from various fields. And I would like to pick up one of the things that this lady said. She's not a librarian, but she's a partner of an architectural firm in Denmark. She said something like this. The only constant for libraries of the future is that the libraries will continue to evolve, but they will evolve contextually according to what they want to be. And the last word she said is that the future of libraries will be as diverse as our imaginations allow us, and our imagination is infinite. So there is still, libraries of the future will exist. I don't think we will disappear into the woodwork, but we need to make ourselves very relevant and we have to stay ahead. So with that, thank you, Keith, for having us here again.
Thank you, everyone. I think the library space is going to be a really, really interesting space. It's awesome to be there, all right? From big data to AI to technology to community to collaboration and so on and so forth. But there's a lot of things that I want to do, and libraries need to do a lot of things. But the number one issue sometimes is equity and scarcity of funds. And I believe globally now there's a trend moving that we want to do a lot of things, and for the people who believes it, we want the society to come forward to contribute to your library. Corporate, come and do your CSR funds to support the library. The alumni can come back to your school and donate books or e-books to your library, all right? And then the thing is that the community gather together, because by putting all these education resources together, you will actually be putting a lot of investment in the human capital of our children and the user, and this is what defines our society and our future. So thank you very much for joining us. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you, panel, for your sharing. It's been awesome having you guys. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name's Winston Roberts. I've been asked to give you my views on what libraries might look like in the future. Why me? Well, I guess because I currently represent the Asia Pacific Regional Committee of IFLA, which is the leading professional organisation for libraries worldwide. I'm sitting in front of a library right now in Wellington, New Zealand. But IFLA has many members in our region, and for many years they've made a great impact on the profession, showing Asia Pacific libraries to the world and demonstrating the skills and commitment of Asia Pacific librarians. But these are not corporate ideas I'm talking about now, they're just my personal thoughts. Libraries in Asia Pacific are dealing with great challenges, and we have the trained personnel and the leadership necessary to address those challenges. What we need more of is inclusion in integrated national and regional plans for economic, educational, scientific and cultural development. Libraries are not add-on extras, they are fundamental to social well-being and progress because they underpin education by providing knowledge resources which in turn generate more knowledge. But here, in front of this Johnsonville Public Library in Wellington, on a cold winter afternoon when the library's closed and it's a public holiday and I'm frozen. But nevertheless, it gives me a warm feeling to talk about libraries, because you'll find libraries in many places, in schools, universities, commercial firms, at the centre of national cultural life in the form of national libraries, which preserve the documents that reveal the cultures of their nation. But The libraries which most people are more familiar with are those which we term simply public libraries. They are in small towns and large cities. They are often open long hours. They provide many information services, free or at modest cost. They are universally available to all the community. That is the ideal, and mostly it is true. That's why I'm sitting outside a public library at this moment. As an example, public libraries provide stories to read for leisure and information from the web to satisfy all the different information needs that people in the community may have. Public libraries are generally run by public authorities with public funding. They're not cheap to build, to operate, or to staff, but the services they provide have tangible and intangible benefits which most people regard as outweighing the direct financial cost. Public libraries as they are now, and as they have been since the middle of last century, are described in the UNESCO Manifesto for the Public Library. They are public services of the information society of the digital era. But in the present 21st century, society is changing. Digital technology is all around us, and libraries are changing too. Changes in modes of transport, urban development, increased population, flows of migrants, and telecommunications, and the climate and the COVID-19 pandemic and future pandemics. All that's changing. That has changed us, and all of those factors will increasingly affect. So, what will public libraries of the future look like? Well, I believe that services called libraries will continue to exist to inform, educate and entertain our communities. Even in the digital era, libraries still need physical buildings, but smart buildings designed to be responsive to climate change. Libraries will need to become more accessible by public transport as transport modes evolve. Libraries will continue their trend of being multifunctional public function spaces. They will continue to promote active play, like those kids who are running past me at the moment. Innovative thinking, artistic and scientific creativity, as well as study. The people who work in libraries will continue to fulfill many roles as educators, events managers, intermediaries between the public and highly complex information on the internet. And yes, they will continue to be storytellers for children. Libraries will increasingly have to be active defenders of truth and information, to defend human rights, freedom of expression, freedom of access to information, and respect for all sectors of the community. And that does not mean passive neutrality. It means active defence of these values, which all countries have signed up to in the form of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Defence of the right to access information for legitimate purposes means that libraries and the profession as a whole will continue to oppose restrictive application of intellectual property rights focused on private profit more than on public good. Libraries will continue to stock leisure reading, books, paper as well as digital, including reading material and assistive technology suitable for their users who may have disabilities. Libraries will no doubt continue to be service centres in the middle of their communities. They will provide advice to citizens on how to transact business digitally with government agencies. And maybe they will become technical fix-it centres for the digital devices of their customers, just as they patch up damaged books. I hope and believe that public libraries will continue to be seen also as reliable, safe places where people can go to escape the stress of modern daily life, for rest and recreation as well as information, places where diversity is welcomed and where discrimination is banned. In short, I don't believe that the fundamental aim of public libraries will change very much. Their appearance might, their locations might change. Some public libraries may have to retreat from the coast, away from rising sea levels. Some public libraries may have to close buildings if they need to follow where populations shift to. If you come here on a day when it's open, not like now, you will see and hear the hum of voices, the laughter of children, and also the frowns of concentration of people studying in quiet corners. All of that makes a wonderful public asset, and I think we will always need such assets. Thank you.